Calls are growing for Pakistan to face visa sanctions until it takes back members of the Rochdale grooming gang scandal. That's following an outburst from former detective and grooming gang whistleblower Maggie Oliver, who was instrumental in helping expose the abuse case. Oliver is urging the new Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood to use visa suspensions and sanctions to pressure Pakistan into repatriating men who were convicted in the scandal. This comes after Mahmood announced that the UK would restrict visas from countries that refuse to take back foreign criminals or illegal migrants. Pakistan has resisted accepting two of the ringleaders from the scandal, Adil Khan and Qari Abdul Rauf. Both men were stripped of their British citizenship years ago, but they avoided deportation by renouncing their Pakistani nationality, claiming that they would be left stateless. Maggie Oliver has previously told GB News that she has seen abusers exploit the legal system for years, costing taxpayers millions in legal aid. In an interview on Martin Daubney's show, the whistleblower said, "We absolutely should be imposing these sanctions. Pakistan is dependent on the UK, and we should not be powerless to enforce the rule of law."
You know, I witness every day, and I have for the past 20 years actually, the horrors that the victims suffer when their abusers are released back into the community after serving prison sentences. Victims' rights come at the bottom of the pile. And, I've heard the new Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, say, her words, they are words. I have heard those same words and had conversations with Priti Patel, with Suella Braverman, with Rishi Sunak, and words are easy. Action doesn't follow. And, we've become the laughing stock of the world because we seem to be powerless to impose these sanctions and returning horrific criminals back to the countries from which they have come. I'm known, Martin, as you know, for the Rochdale case, and I've seen, three of the abusers who were meant to be deported on release from prison play the system for years. They have had millions of pounds in legal aid fighting deportation. Lawyers are getting rich on the back of this. And, for me, when I hear one of these rapists arguing that he shouldn't be deported, for instance, because he's entitled to a family life in this country and his son needs a role model, it makes me feel physically sick.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living. And maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade, and in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
We absolutely should be imposing these sanctions, and we should be halting visas from countries like Pakistan. Pakistan is dependent in many ways on the UK. We should not be powerless to impose the rule of law in our country. And when a judge orders deportation on release, we should make sure that that happens. Even in October 2022, two of these abusers, Adil Khan and Abdul Rauf, they lost their final appeal. After millions of pounds had been spent, they were meant to be deported. We are yet another 3 years down the road. They are still here. They are still using our system to fight what should have happened 10 years ago. So You know, I hear these words again today, Martin, and I don't see a will to do it. I see these as empty promises that never come to fruition. And I don't expect anything different from this Home Secretary either, unfortunately.
And Maggie Oliver, the two monsters you mentioned there, that's the word for them. That's a word I'm allowed to use on national TV. Abdul, Rauf and Adil Khan. They're making a mockery of the system. They simply decided they're no longer Pakistani. They've renounced their citizenship because they don't want to go back to Pakistan because they might face some tough justice. And successive governments are utterly impotent to get these scumbags out of the country. And it begs that very important question you just asked. Why should we expect anything to change under Shabana Mahmood?
Well, you know what? When those two men went to prison, they did have dual citizenship. Send them back to Pakistan to serve their sentences. Don't give them an opportunity to tear up their Pakistani passport. These are simple things. I see it every day. And with Adil Khan, I mean, he came out of prison back into Rochdale. His victim, who he had got pregnant at just 13, didn't even know he was out of prison. She bumped into him in the local supermarket. They are making a mockery of the system. And if we as a country cannot uphold the law that orders this in a court after a trial, after all the evidence has been presented, what does that say about our criminal justice system? They are making a mockery of it. In my charity, the Maggie Oliver Foundation, we are picking up the pieces of destroyed lives for victims every single day who live in fear of bumping into these monsters, as you say. And they have no rights. They can't call on legal aid to fight their corner. They are powerless to do anything at all. And as our country has got things completely back to front, and it's about time somebody took control. But I don't believe that this government is any better than the last government. I have yet to see action follow all these promises that never come to fruition on so many fronts, Matthew. As you've seen it many, many times, just like me, Martin. And it actually breaks my heart. Deport them to serve the sentences in those countries. I don't care about their human rights. They forfeit their human rights when they rape multiple children, destroying children's lives forever. Those children never recover from what's happened to them. These men, if they want a family life, go and live it with your family back in Pakistan. They shouldn't be here. They should not be living back in the places where they abuse children, and they shouldn't be swallowing up millions of pounds in legal aid. I just find it horrific.
Despite judges ordering deportation nearly a year ago, both Khan and Rauf remain in the UK because Pakistan has refused to take them back. Oliver says this makes a mockery of the justice system, especially after one victim was shocked to encounter her abuser in a Rochdale supermarket. New Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's announcement on visa restrictions followed a London summit where security ministers from the US, Australia, New Zealand and Canada discussed border enforcement strategies. The newly appointed Home Secretary declared that securing Britain's borders was her top priority after more than 1,000 migrants crossed the English Channel over the weekend. If you have no legal right to remain in the UK, we will deport you. If countries refuse to take their citizens back, we will take action, Ms Mahmood stated following the Five Eyes meeting. The Home Office indicated that non-cooperative countries could face appropriate adjustments to visa arrangements if they refuse to accept deported nationals. Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp criticised Labour as too weak to protect Britain's borders effectively. Pakistan is reportedly nearing a decision to accept the two men after years of diplomatic talks. So far, no final decision has been confirmed, but pressure is mounting on the Home Secretary to act, and for Pakistan to remove its block on deportations.